let me know. But I know we started just a couple minutes late, so I'll pass it on to Patrick and we can get started.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks. And thanks everyone for joining. I think we say this every time, but we really love doing these. It's fun to be able to kind of ignore other meetings for the morning and just talk Star Wars. So thank you all for joining. We're excited. We're gonna move through kind of quickly. I think we've got 6 fan sites, and we want to make sure we get to all 5 rounds of questions. So we're gonna kick it off, and we'll start with Dominic from Star Wars Underworld.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thank
Morning.
you, as always for doing these. I just want to start with the new vote from the vault poll. If you can just walk us through the decision-making process
Yeah.
behind which characters get into the poll, and then just generally, more generally about the sort of fan polls. Have you ever been really surprised by any of the winners in those?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the selections for these, I think it was a couple of things. One is that Star Wars is a rich universe. Video games, movies, animated TV shows, live action TV shows now. So we really wanted characters that represented that rich world. And so I think we've got obviously Ahsoka from Clone Wars. We've got movie characters, Weequay, some video game characters. So that was one criteria. And then we also just wanted to pick, popular characters that fans would be excited about. And so internally, obviously, our team had a point of view on that. And then also, yeah, as we always do, we look on forums and we look online, and we're aware of various brackets and different fan votes. And so we certainly incorporated all of that into the decision. In terms of fan votes, yeah, I think we are always surprised. I know for our Empire Strikes Back Black Series one, I was personally pulling for Lobot, but Luke Skywalker was a great selection as well. And so I think we all have our personal opinions and hopes, but then we're always happy to go with the ones that the fans choose.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. All righty. Chris from Jedi Business.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Some of the announced action figures during FanFest were made available to premium members before they were made available elsewhere, but Star Wars was excluded. Why?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think a similar situation happened with New York Toy Fair last year. We can't really speak to what other brands choose to do. I know for our brand, obviously, we talk about balance in a lot of different things. And I think here as well, there's a balance between, obviously, like we care a lot about Pulse. We want to drive that, but we know that not all fans have access to Pulse. Certainly around the world, Pulse is amazing, but it operates in the UK, US, and Canada. And so wanting to give kind of fair preference to fans around the world and our different valued retail partners. And so those were some of the factors that went into that decision. Absolutely. Jake from Forlom to Zuckus.
It's always a tongue twister. All right, thanks for having us, guys. Question number 1. You specifically mentioned during the Fan Fest stream that there's been an increased interest in the vintage collection line. Now, what kind of metrics go into determining that? Is it sales? Is it social media, and et cetera? And how does that change your plans for the line going forward?
Yes, so I think it's all of those things. So sales is certainly kind of one of the most important things, and pre-orders is a big part of that. Pre-orders, as we've said, we acknowledge that there have been some bumps, and so we're addressing those, but they are very valuable in letting us know kind of what the demand is and then affecting that future forecast. So pre-orders are key as well. Social media is important. Obviously, we read a lot of the forums. We're aware of the various petitions. And so it does impact the line going forward. We mentioned this on several live streams. I think on our June live stream last year, in response to some of those petitions, we said it was definitely noted and we were going to increase, maybe slowly at first, but the amount of vintage moving forward. We said in our January live stream that this year, 2021, would see more new characters in the vintage line, not necessarily new tooling, but new characters, new items. Since any year since the Vintage Collection 2.0 launched. And so basically, I think we'll continue to do a little more. And if the demand continues to be there, we'll keep driving it further.
Right on.
Awesome. Cool. Arnie from Star Wars Action News. Hey, Arnie.
Hey, good to see you again.
You too.
You talked about the Vintage Collection Gaming Great figures, and we got some good pictures of that. Didn't see the back. Are they going to be numbered like regular Vintage Collection figures?
Yep, they will be numbered. So basically, kind of our standard moving forward is HasLab items, won't be numbered within the overall vintage collection, just because obviously that's a big ticket item. But essentially, any other items, exclusives, just like we've done in the past with TVC 2.0, those will be numbered within the overall line.
Okay, and why have the game logos not in the box at the top? I know you used to do the expanded universe logo.
Yeah, we talked about this with another fan site. Basically, again, it's kind of this balance. We do the same thing in Black Series with our Gaming Greats line on the 4.0 packaging that launched last year. It's kind of a consistent stripe for gaming. It's just we didn't want kind of this long tail and this rabbit hole of all of these different logos for all the different video games. And so the expanded universe, I think there was a suggestion in a previous interview about a gaming logo. That just doesn't have kind of, value or history with the fans the same way the expanded universe did. So this was the solution that we hit on, but we're definitely open to impacting that in the future.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Lacey from Star Wars Newsnet, a familiar face from FanFest.
Hello, good morning. How are you guys
Hey.
doing?
Not too bad.
So first of all, congrats on a successful fan fest. I think as of this morning, it had over 190,000 views, like huge success.
Yeah.
My first question is, because it was so great, and I know people are moving into more, probably towards the fall, more in-person events, are you guys going to continue to do a bigger scale thing like that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and certainly we are eager and so excited to get back to in-person events, both just personally and also to be with the fans
Yes.
again at conventions. But as you said, obviously FanFest has been great. PulseCon was great last year, and so I think again we'll see a balance of those things moving forward. I don't think it'll be one or the other. They're both valuable in different ways. Again, it's great to get to in-person conventions, and it's been so long since I've gotten to talk face to face with fans and just chat in the booth. And,
What is a
and
person?
I know, right? And so that's certainly important. That being said, we love that fans everywhere are able to tune into FanFest and PulseCon and not have to travel to a convention. So I think they'll both have a place moving forward.
Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, Dan from Star Wars Collector.
Morning.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah, a lot of readers are asking why there were no reveals at the Fan Fest for Vintage Collection or Black Series Boba Fett or Blurred. Are those being currently in production? Are you guys working on them? Or
So we can't speak to anything that hasn't been kind of officially announced or released. They're all things that we have considered, and they're things that we're aware of that fans really want. And we do know that they would sell really well, and there's a huge demand for them. And it is while we can't announce anything right now, it is something that we are aware of, and it's something that would be really cool to get in the line, especially for like a 6-inch blurg. That would be really cool. So
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Cool. Awesome. All right, Dominic, back to you.
Cool. I just want to go back to the Gaming Greats reveals from the Vintage Collection for a second. I noticed that they're all troopers for this new wave. Is there any particular reason why you went with an all trooper wave, and is there thought of getting some more non-trooper characters released in that line in the not too distant future?
Yeah, so the troopers kind of play a lot of different roles for us. One, they're really great, obviously, troop builders, so it's good to be able to get those in so that people can buy multiples. They are, especially for kind of new SKUs and new lines for us, they're a little bit easier to get out just because they are a lot of times you're using existing molds or partial tools or redecos. And some of those characters also originally appeared in the Black Series Gaming Greats. So we were able to kind of take a lot of inspiration from those and a lot of development done on those to just bring down to the other scale. Obviously, it would be really cool to get in non-trooper figures. There are a lot to choose from for that. So it's something that we are considering, and something that hopefully, if the Vintage Collection Gaming Greats do really well, we can see more of those characters in the future. And obviously not all of them are troopers. So
cool. Thank you.
no problem.
Awesome. All righty, Chris, back to you.
You mentioned in the live stream that the Vintage Collection specialty waves are going to get their own SKUs. What does that really mean for us fans? Does that mean that we'll find those figures at other places besides Target and the fan channel, or does that mean that the character selection within those specialty waves is going to have a closer focus on the collector instead of more the casual fan?
Yeah, basically it means they'll have their own UPC. They'll live on their own peg at retail other than the mainline waves. We know that this has been a pain point and a concern with existing fans since the specialty waves are geared towards the new collector. And so there's been concern that if they show up on pegs, they'll peg warm and block future waves that the existing fans are really interested in. So basically it means that if brick and mortar retailers want to take these, they'll live on a different peg and they won't block waves of the main line. So the goal is not that they'll expand. Obviously, if brick and mortar retailers want to take them, they can. But the goal is that these are still geared towards those online retailers. Basically, as we announced in the live stream, the recently announced specialty wave will come in small numbers to brick and mortar retailers this fall just because they need it to bridge the gap between mainline waves because vintage collection demand is increasing, which is great. So the plan is still that these will be geared towards the newer fans, main characters to bring new fans into the line. We've seen success with that. And then we'll continue to reserve 1 or 2 slots in our mainline waves for repacks geared towards the existing fans, whether those are reissues or super articulated characters on a vintage collection card for the first time.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Awesome. Yep. Jake, you're up next.
All right, back to the gaming greats. In regards to the Electro Staff Purge Trooper from the Gaming Greats subline, will this figure have a removable helmet as it appears to be based on previous trooper designs, which do? And will this mean that an airborne trooper is possible now in TVC and TBS since Purge Troopers exist in both of those lines?
So in regards to the helmet, it is non-removable for this figure. One of the things we try to do on characters in particular is if they don't have the helmet removable, normally in entertainment, especially kind of going forward, we try to it helps us to try to like just rein in the character if it's they do not remove the helmet in the entertainment. So at the moment, it is non-removable for the helmet for him. And in terms of the airborne trooper, it is a really cool design. We currently don't have any plans for that character at the moment, but now that we do have that purge trooper, it certainly does open up that door for us to be able to do in the future as we look for other exclusives and other things that we can potentially do.
Interesting. All right. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Arnie, what do you have for us?
I'm going to jump off of Jake's question there and say, you said that if the helmets don't come off normally in entertainment, then you don't have the removable helmets. But you guys also talked about the Imperial Guard coming forward with the removable helmet and the new photo deco. So I was wondering, is that going expanded universe like Kyrkanos, or what was the head under there, the rationale behind it?
So I think that with that, it was because it was original, like I think it was a figure that was previously released and it had a removable helmet. So that was a character that had already had a removable helmet, and because it had that, we wanted to make sure it was updated. We didn't want to reduce or remove features from an item that had already had a previous life. So that was kind of the reasoning behind that, was that it already had that removable helmet. So it was just a nice update. And it was kind of from the era that it was developed.
Yeah, and again, the goal for those is for the newer fans. What we don't want to do is create a slight update that will make some existing fans who already have it feel compelled to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Lacey, you're up next.
Hello again. So one of the best days of the year is coming up, May the 4th, Star Wars Day. You guys had mentioned during FanFest that you're doing some type of live stream or some type of event. Could you tell us a little bit more information about it? What can fans look forward to?
So at least at the moment, I don't think we have much information to give. We will have more information kind of coming up about what specifically will be in that event, but we are doing a stream. So we will have stuff to announce. It'll be similar to what we've done with other streams. So yeah. So while we can't give specifics, at least not on my end, there is it will be similar to other panels that we've done, and obviously it's the Star Wars holiday, so it's a big one.
Awesome. Cool. So I'll tell people to stay tuned. Thank you.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, Dan, you're up next.
Some of our readers are asking if there's any possibility that we'll see the Bad Batch figures in 3 3/4 vintage collection. They didn't see any reveals or mentions during Fan Fest.
So yeah, while we don't have anything to announce right now or anything that hasn't been revealed or announced yet, obviously the Bad Batch is a new piece of entertainment that's coming, and we always try to make sure that we support that entertainment in our lines. So it's certainly a possibility that we could see it come to the vintage collection. It's another big kind of tentpole piece of entertainment that is coming to Star Wars.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. All righty. Back to the top, round 3. Dominic.
All right. So sticking with the Bad Batch, there've been some concerns raised recently about the appearance of the Bad Batch characters, and there's clones that are supposed to be clones of Tamara Morrison, and there've been some concerns around whitewashing with their appearances. Now, this is by no means exclusive to you guys, but the concerns did come up with the reveal of the tech figure. This is a conversation that extends to other licensees and the show itself. But do you guys have any comments on these concerns?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so we work closely internally with Lucasfilm, with Disney, with our design team. We always kind of do our best to bring characters to life. We strive for the most accurate design possible. We've got a lot of different resources at hand. We've got a lot of different reference material. And again, we work closely, our design partners, with Lucasfilm, with Disney. For these figures, the specific figures, you mentioned tech based on the Bad Batch. Obviously, we drew that inspiration from the entertainment, kind of directly from that, as we do with all figures. We used our photoreal technology, which is great across Black Series and Vintage, to try to achieve the most accurate likeness possible to the entertainment. As with all of our figures, hopefully we did those characters justice in the entertainment. But as we say with everything, we're always listening to you guys, to the fans, to your readers and listeners on how future figures can be improved. So definitely let us know your thoughts. We're always kind of looking at our processes and refining those to ensure that we provide kind of the best, highest quality, most accurate figures possible. So thanks for the question, and definitely let us know your thoughts moving forward.
Cool. Appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Absolutely. No problem. All righty. Up next, I believe, is Chris from Jedi Business.
Yeah, so when you revealed the vintage collection Luke Skywalker Hoth figure, Eric, I think that when you held the figure up into the camera, it had the collar around the neck. The press images didn't have that piece. Will that be something that's going to be included like it was with the original figure, or is that not included this time around?
So it is going to be included. I spoke to the designer this morning. It has been kind of restored. It was unfortunately just omitted accidentally in the production process for the figure in particular that we photographed. So the figure that I had that I revealed was an actual sample that I was able to show. So it was just part of the process that we have when we get in multiple samples at various stages. Sometimes things can be missing, and that's something that we normally comment on and make sure that they are not missing moving forward. But yeah, it will be there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem.
Cool. All righty. Up next, Jake.
Okay, the reveal of General Merrick and his X-Wing from Rogue One was a major highlight of the streaming event. Thank you for that. Our question is, what astromech droid would you suggest fans and collectors use with the fighter, as Blue Leader's droid is currently not in the line?
Yeah, so we're certainly aware of that. It's come up in some other interviews we've done today and we've read online. So our designers did some looking into this. The closest thing, based on the fan comments, the closest thing they've been able to see was the R2-R9 from the Queen's Starship. It was last released in 2012. The droids have the same red bodies, but Antox has black panels on his body instead of white and black panels on his head instead of the red. So that seems the closest bet. You know, again, we've read the comments. We're aware it's a request for the future and something we could add to the line.
Awesome.
Thank you. All righty, Arnie.
During the Fan Fest, you openly discussed some frustration regarding the Black Series Aura Singh antenna on her head. And given that the Black Series is a larger scale of figure, can you talk about some of the architectural problems that prevented making a more to scale antenna? And is the antenna removable for those who want to either just not have it distracting or try to custom their own?
So the antenna, it's a separate part, but at the moment it is glued in because one of the things we've been finding is if it's in pack, if it's not glued, it has a tendency to just kind of like come off and then you lose it. So it is glued, but it is a separate part. So it can be removed just with effort. And in terms of the scale of that antenna in particular, the reference that we have for her, especially in like kind of the animation and in the Phantom Menace reference, it is an incredibly thin piece of plastic that would have to be there. So we originally did sculpt it that thin, and then unfortunately just production when it went to our factories, when we started looking at it, it naturally just had to get larger. So we worked with them really closely with our partners at the factories to try to make sure that we got it as thin as possible. We worked really closely with Lucasfilm to make sure that we were comfortable with it. And there's a lot of discussions about whether we should remove it, whether we should just have a peg hole for someone else to put in their own. And ultimately we felt like it was just a miss to not have it. Because it's very iconic to the characters. So we are really happy with where we landed on it. We feel like it is subtle enough that it doesn't draw too much attention to it. But yeah, it is a separate part. So if you do want to remove it, it is possible. It's just it will be glued in.
And why you said that there was a like the factories weren't able to do it. Why can't they make that small of a piece?
It is just the sake of the molds in general. When it gets really thin, there's a lot of issues too with like it passing QA concerns and being able to not snap. So like there's a certain thickness that our factories feel personally comfortable with to make sure that things do not fail under testing. So like the thinner the piece, the more chance it has to snap and break and stuff like that. So the thicker piece just gives it more of a chance to survive play, and then also just the production process of packing it into a blister. If you have a really thin pieces, people are trying to like put it into the blister, you have a chance of it snapping off even as it's being inserted. So that is part of the issue with going that thin. We really can't get much thinner than what we have on there in general.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Lacey, you're up next.
Hello. Building off of Jake's question, which I personally feel cool now that I have a vintage collection question because I haven't so far, and I feel really uncool in this group. So the X-Wing, super cool. One of the best things announced at FanFest. We would like to know if there were any more original characters on the way for Rogue One. You guys talked about how it's an anniversary year. And if you can't talk about that, that's fine. How do you approach an anniversary year of like selecting certain characters? Do you look at the movie as a whole?
Yeah. So nothing we can announce now. And I think Rogue One, as we've always said, is kind of a mini beat as opposed to an Empire Strikes Back 40th or a Lucasfilm first 50 years. So nothing to announce now. That being said, kind of moving forward, whether it's this year or beyond, like we know that Rogue One is seen by vintage fans as, you know, kind of adjacent to or in the spirit of the original trilogy and is really beloved. And so it's certainly, you know, something we're focusing on in the future. And we have definitely not seen the last of Rogue One in the vintage collection.
I always want to say it's a fan favorite, but I know that everyone likes certain movies separately, but I feel like collectively people enjoy Rogue One.
Absolutely. We do too.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cool. Yep. Dan, your turn.
Hey, so some of our readers are asking why most of the popular characters aren't showing up when they're debuting in programs and stuff. And they're asking, doesn't Disney give you guys enough time to actually produce and manufacture these toys to actually be released when like the Mandalorian Boba Fett figure was shown and stuff like that? or when he was revealed in The Mandalorian?
Yeah, so certainly, as always, we've got a great partnership with Lucasfilm and Disney, and we certainly trust them on when to, allow us access to certain assets. And certainly there's kind of no change in the past several years. I can go back to The Force Awakens and that, old man, Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master, we weren't able to put out until 2017. And we've said publicly, like, we saw him on screen the same time that you guys did. And so there are certainly some assets that are always like that. John Favreau has said publicly that Grogu, I guess the child as he was known in season 1, we saw him on screen the same time you guys did. So there's always going to be things in that camp, and we'll always work to get them out as quickly as possible. And then there's obviously always other characters that we do see beforehand, and we're able to get out a little more quickly. But again, as with a lot of things, our interests are aligned here. We're on the same page. For hot characters like that, we want to get them out as quickly as possible, and we're doing everything we can to do so.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, back to the top with, I'm looking at my list here, Dominic.
All right. Speaking of, Mandalorian characters that took a little while to get out there, Baby Yoda, Grogu. One of the most talked about reveals you guys have made recently, I feel like, is the Galactic Snack in Grogu. Can you sort of walk us through the design process for that guy? And who was it that came up with the idea of a Baby Yoda that eats cookies?
I'm trying to think of who it was specifically that came up with the idea. It was I feel like it was part of like a brainstorm as we were trying to develop what we could do with Grogu, because and one thing we saw, especially in season 1 and even more so in season 2, was that he just was constantly eating. I think he had like a new snack on almost every episode. So it was something that it lent itself really well to that, and it was like a really, really cute play pattern that you could have with that, and especially since we were going that kind of animatronic route, it allowed for a lot of life to be brought to that character, where he felt like his own little like standalone thing that kind of had its own life kind of on the shelf. So in terms of the process that went into making that, obviously it's a lot more complicated than most of our like action figures we do, because you not only have to deal with a larger scale, you have to deal with a hugely popular character that has a lot of eyes on it. You have the animatronic aspect of it, so you have to make sure that all the animatronics work as intended, and make sure that it is reliable through all the testing, and make sure that it works the same for everybody. And then obviously, because he has all those different accessories, we want to make sure that he could hold each one of those accessories, and they're all very different sizes. They're very different shapes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of consideration that went into making sure that the hand that we developed could hold all of those, that the accessories were compatible, that the articulation was good enough that he could be able to reach up and actually like bring the food to his mouth. So there, and we worked really, really closely with Lucasfilm and the Disney team and everyone out there to make sure that this thing was as accurate as possible, and just also really fun and cute. So yeah, that's kind of a brief overview of kind of what went into that figure.
Cool. And we're running a little behind, so we're going to try to tighten up our answers a little bit so we can get through all the rest of the rounds. So Chris, you're up next.
Sure. I was hoping that you could clarify the Vintage Collection Purge Trooper and maybe talk about what's new on this figure and how it was kit bashed. It looks like the pauldron is a new piece, but quite unclear about the helmet.
Yeah. So the Purge Trooper does come with an all-new helmet. The helmet is non-removable for this figure. He comes with a new pauldron. He comes with a new belt with the cross straps. And he comes with the new kind of shock staff. The rest of the figure is kind of pulled from other previously released figures. But yeah, we really hope that you enjoy all the new details. We are really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. All right, Jake, you're up next.
All right. The Marvel team has had some great success with the launch of the Marvel Legends Retro 3 3/4 line. Is it possible that the Star Wars team could look into using the same cardstock material of those MLR card backs, as they're made of like much thicker and sturdier material for their retro or vintage collection line?
Yeah, no, we're definitely, we've read comments about the thickness of vintage line, and certainly we use that thicker cardstock as well in some of our 6-inch Kenner inspired lines. So it's something we've definitely talked about. I think we spoke to this in a previous fan site interview earlier today, but you know, we're aware of some of the damage that's happening to figures as they're shipped. And it's not something we're aware of and not doing anything about. We're definitely having some conversations, and I think it's safe to say that, you know, sometime in the next few months, sometime this year, that we'll have, you know, one or more announcements on things we're doing to kind of prevent the damage happening to vintage figures.
Perfect. Great. Clamshells are
Awesome.
coming. Fantastic.
that would be delightful. All righty, Arnie, you're up next.
You talked about being able to see the paint master for the Razor Crest, that a video was made that will be shown to fans in a few months. But I remember back with the barge, it felt like we were, as backers and fans, a lot more involved with, you know, made more aware with blog posts and making of with the barge and that wonderful book that came with it that detailed its creation. So how come the Razor Crest is a little bit more offline and, you know, we have to wait for a video release that's been made and things?
And sorry, yeah, just to clear up any confusion, the video is in the process of being made. It will be ready in a couple of months. We did kind of that packaging shoot, but the video is not ready yet. As soon as it is, we'll certainly share it. We had a similar question on a previous interview about the book specifically. I think the barge, since that was the first HasLab campaign, HasLab was something new to the fans at that point. They weren't sure really what to expect, kind of, you know, putting their money down and then not getting the item for a year. So we wanted to do the book, obviously, so fans got something in their hands, and then pretty frequent updates. We'll certainly be providing updates like we did on the live stream with some images and just some updates on where we are. The video in a couple of months when it's ready, probably something after that. But there are, I think, a little less updates in this campaign and in other Hasbro HasLab campaigns compared to the barge, just because that barge was that first one, and we wanted fans to be comfortable with HasLab, which I think they are now. But it's certainly good feedback, and I think you will see more updates coming in the coming months.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Lacey, you're up.
Awesome. So we've been talking a lot here about individual figures. Our fans vary from old collectors to new collectors and all different types, but they all collectively really love the old play sets. So the question was, is there any plan to introduce play sets into the vintage collection line moving forward?
Yeah, so we've actually done more playsets kind of recently. So we did like the Jabba's Palace is one example of a playset that we did bring back. And it's something that we would like to continue doing moving forward. The vintage collection just lends itself so well to that world building. So yeah, if you guys have suggestions on playsets you would like to see, we do 100% read comments, so we would love to be able to see what fans would like to see out of playsets in the future.
Some of the suggestions were the Death Star 2 wreckage or the Sith Citadel from Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I'll bring that back to the team.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you. Cool. Dan, you're up.
How do you guys determine what products get sent to retailers in individual white brown Hasbro shipping boxes, i.e. the Amazon's Black Series 6-inch retro figures? Mm-hmm. And how come Best Buy's exclusive Black Series Phantom Menace figures didn't get the same treatment?
Yeah, no, it's a good question and kind of ties into what I said earlier. We're definitely aware of some of the discrepancies in packaging, and you know, we've also read feedback and gotten feedback from fans on different ways that items are shipped from different retailers. You know, the Hasbro Pulse is in that mix as well. And kind of when we receive this feedback, we certainly bring it back and discuss ways we can improve that. So it's good to get this feedback, and it's something we will definitely address and if possible, impact moving forward.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. All righty, back up to Dominic for the last round.
All right, final round. With the Wedge Antilles helmet that you guys revealed, can you just tell us how that one compares, obviously, aside from look, to the previous Black Series pilot helmets?
Yeah. So it will be comparable in terms of like the offering inside. So like there will be radio chatter. So obviously you are now Wedge. So you'll be hearing the radio chatter of all the other characters that are not Wedge. You'll have the sound effects. You'll have like the AT-AT blaster fire, you'll have their sound effects, the TIE fighters and stuff like that. So it'll be very comparable in terms of the offering. We wanted to make sure that you had a very similar experience between the previous release and this one. Obviously, a whole new paint scheme, so that it will visually look very different on shelf than the previous release. But ultimately, it will be a very similar experience, just from Wedge's point of view, not Luke's this time.
Cool. Thanks for all the answers this morning, guys.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. Cool. Chris, you're up next.
Sure. What was the reasoning behind putting the Black Series Aura Singh figure into the Clone Wars packaging and not in her debuted Phantom Menace packaging?
So this was something that we actually discussed internally. While Phantom Menace was her first appearance, she was almost a blink and you'll miss it cameo, and she definitely had a much bigger presence in the Clone Wars. So we felt like it was a little bit more appropriate to have her in the Clone Wars. We did use the Phantom Menace reference when we sculpted up that figure, so we based it off of that outfit because we do the realistic interpretation of those characters. But yeah, it was ultimately because she just appeared far more in the Clone Wars as opposed to the essentially cameo that she had in Phantom Menace.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem.
Cool. Jake, you're up.
All righty. Chris B had my first question, so I'm going to go to my backup bonus question I sent there. And it says, will the Gaming Greats Scout Trooper from Jedi Fallen Order include his little EC-17 holdout blaster? Because it looked like it was noticeably missing from the images. And I know that the Black Series one was released with one. So
at least at the moment for the Vintage Collection version, he does just come with a shock baton, since it's his key weapon accessory that he's seen within the Jedi Fallen Order. So that is what we considered to include with him, because that's just the most iconic version of what he has in the game. And since, at least for the shock baton troopers in that game, they pretty much only use that baton. That's pretty much all they use. So that was part of the reasoning why it only includes that.
Gotcha. Thank you guys so much for all the answers today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Arnie, you're up.
So during FanFest, the Marvel team teased their next HasLab project, and I know Dan Yoon has been mentioning on Twitter a lot to start saving up money for it. And given that it's been a little while since the Razor Crest launched, will you guys also start telling people when to start saving their nickels to prepare for the next Star Wars HasLab?
Yeah, so obviously nothing to announce at this point. But yeah, that was definitely kind of a learning we took from the Barge. Obviously, the Barge in 2018 was this brand new thing, this 45-day campaign. And then, obviously with the Razor Crest, we kind of made that tease a few months in advance. We'll certainly plan to do that again, obviously without, giving too much away, so the actual launch is special. But whenever we do our next HasLab, yeah, that's probably a pretty good practice moving forward.
Okay, great. Thanks for the time this morning and including us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Lacey, you're up.
All right. Of all the things that you revealed and announced during the FanFest, which one is each of your favorite and why?
Eric, you want to go?
I think for me, it's probably the Aura Singh figure, just because there's so many unique elements to her, between like the incredibly long rifle, the stuff that we had to develop in terms of the antenna, the really long, like kind of creepy fingers that she has. So there's a lot of uniqueness to that figure in particular. And she just looks really cool and really different than a lot of the other figures we've done. So she'll look really striking kind of on shelf too. So that was mine personally.
Very cool.
And for me, I mentioned it on the stream, and so it's not just because it was brought up here, but Antok Merrick's X-Wing, just for a lot of reasons. I love Rogue One. I love the character. Love the battle at the end. I love a lot of things. And then obviously kind of the world building of Vintage is, important to us. We know it's important to fans. And so being able to do this and build out that world was important.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan, bring us home.
Now that some tentative Black Series figure box redesigns with less plastics has been shown, what has the feedback been like, and how do you respond to those that want to see the figure in the packaging?
Yeah, obviously kind of Hasbro and us on the Star Wars team, we're always doing ongoing research to ways to improve the customer's experience with our products. You know, not only the product, but also the packaging that the products come in. You know, despite any online conversation, we're not able to comment on any plans to announce new packaging for Hasbro products in general, or Star Wars products in specific. So, you know, as with other, you know, things that are out there that we haven't put out there, we just can't comment on it.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you guys. Obviously said this at the top, but this is just a fun way for us to spend time. I also know, obviously, you know, I think we've got folks maybe all on North America, but different countries, which is great. It's just great to see kind of the continued global growth and global interest. So thank you guys for spending the time, and we look forward to doing it again sometime soon.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome,
Thanks again.
thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye.